Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Quantum Alignment Show. I am Karen Curry Parker, and we are talking today about Chiron, part 2 or 3. I think we've been talking about Chiron for a while. In our program today, we are going to be talking about Chiron from the years 1966 to 1980. So if you were born in that time frame, we're going to talk about the adventure of Chiron in your chart. Last week we talked about 1950 to 1965. If you love human design and you are intrigued in particular about all the gates, even if we've already covered your Chiron last week, go ahead and pay attention because I'm going to be talking about some of the themes of the gates. And you'll find probably something very interesting in there for you, or you might learn something new about your kids or people you know, or your siblings. I was looking at my brother's Chiron today and trying to figure out why does my brother do the things he does and what makes him such an interesting person. He is a very interesting person who I love very much. All right, so let's talk about Chiron. Just a quick reminder, Chiron is not going to show up in the definition in your chart, but if you got a chart from me, you will see that Chiron is on your chart. I do use Chiron in my readings. I use Chiron when I look at a chart. I do believe that the placement of Chiron speaks a lot about your spiritual life purpose. It tells me a lot about some of the challenges that you might experience in your life. Chiron is what we call the wounded healer. It is the place in your chart where you carry your deepest wound. And I almost don't like that because it sort of implies that there's something broken that has to be fixed. And I don't necessarily believe that anybody's broken. However, what Chiron does bring to us is a maturing theme that we have to contend with or deal with every time we up level or grow in our life cycles, in our expansion, whenever we go through a cycle of evolution in our own personal life and our own personal awareness. Chiron is always there, sort of as our companion, to give us something to bump up against, give us something sometimes to push against. And it's in that pushing against that theme that we discover our capability, we discover our purpose, we discover what aspects of ourself do we need to master in order for us to fulfill the fullest expression of the truth of who we are. You will find that, I just want to throw this in here because I think, let's talk about struggle for just 1 second. If you look at the human design chart strictly as a blueprint or an archetype for the human experience, not your chart in particular, but the chart, if you look at the chart as a blueprint for what it means to be human and what are some of the parts of the human journey, you'll see that built into this blueprint is the channel 2838, which we sometimes call the channel of struggle. The channel of struggle is part of mutative circuitry, or it's part of the circuitry that's about moving into evolutionary cycles and bringing change and transformation. And what you see is that the channel of struggle is in this mutative energy, and it means that whenever we up level, or whenever we do something new, or whenever we have an expansion of some kind in our lives, we also struggle with it. We struggle with it because first and foremost, you have to know that if you're going to put the effort in to really master something, to really, really play with and experiment and push against something for the sake of growth, you want to know that what you're pushing towards and all that energy you're investing into that growth and expansion is really worth your effort. It is crucial for us to struggle because it teaches us what's really worth fighting for and what perhaps do we need to let go and release and maybe not fight with anymore. It is a crucial part of growth and evolution. We see it in the chart. We see it in the template for being human. Struggling is not bad. Struggling is actually healthy. And it is a crucial part of the expansion of consciousness and the maturing of who you are in the world. But I'm going to add a little asterisk mark here because struggle is in the chart. Pain is not in the chart. Suffering is not in the chart. We're not designed to stay stuck in the struggle. We're not designed to constantly be fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting without respite from the fight. It's a temporary cycle that is a significant mark that shows us, ooh, I'm in a cycle of growth and expansion. I'm in a cycle of of an evolution. I'm in a cycle of transforming. And because of that, I'm struggling a little bit because this is how I'm making sure that I'm going in the right direction, that I'm really putting my energy towards what's valuable and crucial, and that I'm really getting the value of what I'm doing here. And it's helping me, that pushing is helping me really get clear about what I need to do and how I need to stay aligned with and in sync with the value of the work that I'm doing. All of that energy of struggle ultimately is actually about growth. It's actually about expansion, and it's a good sign. It means you're working your muscles and you're doing what's necessary for you to push into the next level. But don't stay stuck in the struggle. Don't stay stuck in the pain and move that struggle into a place of suffering. Whatever is in your Chiron is part of what you're here to struggle with or to struggle against. And generally speaking, it's not something that's going to come from out here in the mysterious world. It's an inner struggle. It's that place where you go to the mat with yourself. And it's in that journey of going to the mat with yourself that you get to discover and explore, as I said, what you're capable of. And as I said, it is a maturing point in the chart. Now, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do as I go through each year. Each year is going to have Chiron energy associated with it. This is the position that Chiron is in during these years. I'm putting not the dates here because Chiron has a lot of wobble to it. So it can go back and forth a couple of times over the course of a year, and it usually does. And so it has a lot of retro movement and forward movement. So what I have put is the gates that manifest or the gates that are present during that year. So in 1966, Chiron was in the gate 22 as well as the gate 36. Now, most of you are going to have, well, in your chart, you may find that Chiron is either in the same gate, both in the conscious and unconscious. That means that theme is a consistent theme that you're playing with on both levels of your awareness, both with your soul design and your life purpose design. Some of you will have a different gate in each of your positions of Chiron. Some of you will have one gate in your conscious and a different gate in your unconscious. And that's going to be a little bit of a different story. It means those two themes, if they're different gates, they're going to push against each other. So it is going to be kind of up to you to discover the story of your Chiron position. As I said, some of you it's going to be easier because you only have one gate. Some of you will have two different gates, and you'll have to kind of drop into a place of telling the story of how perhaps those two energies play together. And I will do my best to talk into some of that as I go through each year. If you want to learn more about the gates and the themes of the gates, I strongly encourage you to get a good human design book or even a good I Ching book, because the energy of the gates are directly correlated to the themes of the hexagrams from the Chinese I Ching. If you have an I Ching book and you don't have a human design book, you can grab your I Ching book. That'll help. But get a good human design book. There are lots of good human design books on the market. I, of course, like mine, Understanding Human Design, and I want you to go with the book that you most resonate with. So, as I said last week, there are some really great books out there. Go with the one that you like, that you love, that speaks to you. My book goes through the gates and then actually has exploratory questions and journaling exercises that go with it, mostly because I just want you to really drop into understanding the story of the archetypes that you're working with in this lifetime as part of your life path, so that you can learn to consciously bring out the highest expression of your potential in this life, because it's fun and it feels better and your life gets more joyful and has more meaning if you're not stuck in the struggle. So In 1966, Chiron was in the gate 22 and the gate 36. The gate 22, sometimes called grace, that's actually the traditional I Ching name. I think in human design we call it the gate of openness. But the gate 22 is all about, first of all, discovering your own inner beauty and own understanding that when you are connected with the beauty within you, you are in a state of grace. So oftentimes with the gate 20, with Chiron in the gate 22, we see people who have a lifetime struggle with discovering and remembering their own connection to their own inner beauty. It's also an energy that is alchemical in nature. It's part of alchemy in the chart. And it's the alchemy or the energy that says, when I let go, when I surrender, when I move into a place of trust, this is an emotional energy. When I hold the vibrational frequency of trust and faith, I will be given, I will find in the way that's right for me, all the resources necessary for me to make change in the world, for me to express grace in form in the world. I will be able to do what I came here to do. So the masterful expression of grace is actually being gracious. It's the energy of being a dignitary or a philanthropist. It can be, if you're not, if you're not being in the flow, you can be very repressed with it and be very proper and strict and rigid. Or if you're really going overboard with expressing it, you can be sort of inappropriate or even disgraceful. If you don't love yourself enough to show up in that state of grace, of self-value and self-worth, you can be disgraceful. The gate 36, let me just say this. The gate 36 has a theme that's not on here, but I'll tell you, I sometimes call this the boredom gate. The gate 36 is always on a quest for something new. It's the energy of adventure and exploring. It's always on the leading edge of the next new experience, the next new adventure. This is, I don't know if you guys remember this a few years back, the guy who jumped out of an airplane in a spacesuit at 10,000 feet, with like he had a special suit so the air pressure wouldn't hurt him, oxygen stuff. That's the gate 36, right? How far can I stretch the boundaries of the envelope of the human potential? So the gate 36, when you're working with this energy, you're always wanting to be ready for the next new thing, the next new adventure, the next new leading edge thought, the next new consciousness, the next new whatever. In its highest expression, this is somebody who is constantly pushing the edge of possibility. And there is, a joy that comes from always being on the leading edge of showing what else is possible. So it's a very creative energy in that respect. And it's also an emotional energy like the 22. That 36 energy is all about, if you're not living out the highest expression, being in a state of boredom that causes you to leap from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing and never quite get to mastery. And it can, as such, also be somewhat chaotic. Remember that any energy in the chart that's emotional is designed to be waited for. You need to go through cycles of waiting to get clarity. And if you're not waiting for the right timing and you're just jumping because you're bored, then you create chaos. So sometimes when you have the 36s, you're challenged with your Chiron position. It means that you have to trust that the timing will show you when it's right to do the next new thing. And that boredom sometimes doesn't mean you quit or you jump into the next new thing. Boredom means you hold the frequency of what it is that you're doing. You ask yourself, do I need to stay with this in order to achieve mastery? And can I become masterful in an innovative and new way as I wait for the timing to be right for me to move to the next new, correct, exciting adventure without the chaos? In 1967, we see again the gate 36, and then we also move into the gate 25. The gate 25 is sometimes called the gate of the love of spirit. It is a gate that is connected to the G center, to the heart. It is part of the channel of the shaman. It is the place where we experience, in the strongest possible way, I think, the energy of surrender. It's part of the channel where we surrender the personal ego to a place of service to the greater good of the whole, or a place of service to spirit. It is that place where we let go of our attachment to our unique role and the ego associated with the role, and we recognize that we are unique because We are a part of a puzzle, an intricate cosmic puzzle, and we are so vital that if we don't take our place in the puzzle will not be complete, but we're not so vital that we think we are the entire puzzle. So it's a place where we have humility and surrender. And it's a surrender ultimately that comes from a place of service. And it's a surrender that oftentimes comes in the face of having the experience of the unexpected. Sometimes when we get too big in our britches, so to speak, life comes along and knocks us down to our knees, not because we're here to suffer, but because sometimes we have to remember our place in the cosmic plan. And that humility reminds us that sometimes there are circumstances that we don't have control over, and there's a place of acceptance in those situations that ultimately teaches us to be in a place of service. So the 25 is a very spiritual gate. And certainly I would say, if you remember, once you master the theme of Chiron, which usually happens around your late 40s, early 50s, once you master the theme of your Chiron, you actually move into a place of sharing the theme of your Chiron out with the world. So the gate 25, Chiron in the gate 25 position is definitely a very spiritually based journey. And it's a journey that ultimately I think teaches people how to become powerful spiritual teachers. You become somewhat of an awakening force in the world. And I find a lot of my clients that have this Chiron position really have a deep longing to make a creative spiritual contribution to the world. It's really interesting to note, this is just a strange aside, but in this same time span in the mid 60s, we also saw Neptune transiting through the gate 1, which is the gate of contribution. So I find a lot of my clients born in sort of the mid 60s have a deep sort of visceral longing to be spiritual teachers and to make whatever contribution they end up making to the world in a way that fulfills their desire to make a spiritual contribution to the world. They like to ground whatever they end up doing in spiritual meaning. 1968, we have the same gates. We have the same energies. So in 1968, we also have adventure and acceptance. So in 1969, excuse me, in 1969, we have again the gate 25. And then we shifted up a lot. Then we moved to the gate 17. The gate 17, it's one of those gates that in human design, it has a description that I don't particularly like. We call it the gate of opinions. But here's how I like to reframe it. I think it's the gate of possibilities. It's a place where we have a mature awareness of possibilities. So the gate 17 says, what else is possible? How can I take this idea that I have and put it out into the world and experiment with the possibilities of what this idea might be about? Now, this is a gate that is dissociated with the head center. Sorry, this is associated with the ajna center. Everything that's above the neck in the chart doesn't have energy associated with it. There's no motors up here. All right. This is all possibility. Everything in the mind is possibility, and none of it is truth. You don't know if something is true or valid until you actually go out below the neck and experience it and explore and experiment with it in your physical body, in your physical reality. You don't know if your opinion is true until you go try it out, right? So when we look at this idea of the gate 17 in Chiron in this gate 17 position, we know that part of what you're here to do is explore possibilities and to understand that because you have the idea or the thought about a possibility or a potential doesn't mean it's necessarily true, that you then have to go explore it and experiment with it, take it out into the world to prove its validity. So part of the challenge with the 17 is learning to recognize that the thoughts that you have are possibilities and potentials, not necessarily realities. Realities comes from outside of yourself. And so there's waiting there. And there's waiting that it's about waiting for people to ask you for your thoughts and your insights. And there's waiting also to demonstrate whether something you think is true is actually true. So it has with it as I said, in this particular description, the mature awareness of possibilities, and also sometimes a little bit of patience to see if what you think is actually true. Sorry, the year changed, but the gates didn't. 1970, again, we have these same two energies. We have the energy of acceptance and even surrender, and the 17, the energy for opinions and possibilities. So if you are born in 69 and 70, it's very possible and probable that you have both of these energies in your Chiron position, which means you may have been doing this dance your whole life between surrender and acceptance and opinions and possibilities, and both of those dances, there is the struggle to understand your place in the cosmos. Both of this energy between these two gates has been ultimately about you learning to become a spiritual teacher who in turn opens up people to the awareness of what else might be possible. In 1971, we have the gate 17 and the gate 21. Now it gets really interesting because the gate 21 is definitely a gate that I would consider, well, I actually think the 17 can sometimes be a little bit of a challenging gate as well. The gate 21 can also be sometimes a little bit of a challenging energy. The gate 21 is an energy that comes off the top of the will center, which is the little triangle that's over to the right of the diamond in the center of the chart. The gate 21 is sometimes called the gate of the treasurer. It's an energy that is about managing and allocating resources, and those resources are about sharing those resources, and the resources are shared in order to create a sustainable foundation, not just for yourself, but for your community or your tribe. It is a very beautiful energy. It is the energy, though, because it is the treasurer, that sometimes causes us to put ourselves on a budget. You know, sometimes you have to control the resources because that controlling of the resources ensures that those resources last longer, right? If you have a bag of M&Ms and you eat them all in one sitting, then they're gone, right? But if you say, okay, I'm going to have 5 M&Ms every day and I'm going to enjoy them, and maybe I'll even have extra to share with my friends, you know, then you're managing the resources, and that's going to let those resources last longer and maybe even go farther and allow you to share those resources over time with others. It's an energy that's all about ultimately creating sustainable resources for yourself and for others. But in the low expression, it sometimes can feel like control. And certainly, people who carry this energy oftentimes struggle with either feeling controlled by others or being controlling or trying to control circumstances that you perhaps have no control over. So again, you'll see in this sort of expression here, this need to learn to pace yourself, to sustain yourself, and ultimately even to let go of control and to trust that, yes, you have to do your part to sustain your energy and your resources, and also trust that no matter what, you will be okay. You will have the resources that you need. You will be supported, and you will be able to use that support that you are receiving ultimately to benefit others. But definitely lessons here about control. So now, 1972 also gets really interesting because in 1972, we also add the gate 51. Now, in traditional human design, sometimes the gate 51 is called the gate of shock. It is actually the electromagnetic, the gate that connects to the gate 25, which we just talked about a little bit earlier, the gate 25 being the gate of the love of spirit. What we see in the human design chart is that it is through sometimes shocking and unexpected events. Notice that I said the word unexpected. Through the experience of shocking, unexpected events that we are woken up to the love of spirit, to our place in the cosmic plan. that we are sometimes, our ego sometimes really literally has to die to circumstances that do not serve our longer term good, or circumstances that are keeping us or holding us back from being more closely aligned with our spirit, our true spiritual nature. So the 51 can be an initiating energy. It is awakening. It is arousing. It is sometimes destabilizing. It really forces us to have to let go of preconceived ideas, our identity, who we think we are, what we thought was possible, attachments that we may have. So it's a really sort of destabilizing energy that brings us back to a foundation of being connected to spirit as source. Now, notice that it's in companionship here in this year in our Chiron position with the gate 21. And the 21 wants to be in control, right? You want to be in control. You want to control everything. So you really see with these two energies this deep, deep potential lesson for those of you who carry these energies in your Chiron, with learning how to let go, learning how to roll and accept and be awakened to the flow and the cycles of life, and to recognize that you don't really have control over anything except for yourself and your response to circumstances and your connection, your responsibility of staying connected to source. So this is a powerful, powerful theme for this year. And certainly I would say a theme that um, can be, I think, forges some very powerful spiritual teachers, and people who carry this energy in their Chiron certainly have a life path or a role that is about waking up or initiating others into the energy and the power of the love of spirit. And of course, it's not just 1972, it's also 1973. So you have this theme that goes on for a couple of years. In 1974, we have the gate 51 still, this gate, this shocking initiating energy, married to or in conjunction with, I'm going to use that word because that's sometimes an astrology word. We also see the gate 42. The gate 42 is actually the gate of endings. It's an energy that is about closing a door so that another door can open. So even though it's not really about endings per se, it has endings as a theme. It's also a theme about endings and new beginnings. So it's from the completion of something, we now become open to something else, something new. It's an energy of rebirth or renewal in that respect. So we see the 51, which is an energy of initiation, an energy of being awakened, and the 42, which is an energy of completion. And it's a completion that then prepares us for the next new expansion. So there again, here is this energy of starting and initiating, an energy of finishing, and sometimes with the 51 not knowing how to end the situation, and sometimes with the 42 not knowing how to start the situation. And so a lot of potential with this particular combination for sort of push me, pull you energy. Of course, you know that the answer to discovering what to start and what to end comes from surrendering, letting go, letting the flow show you, following your human design strategy, which is a really cool way to learn how to surrender, and staying connected to spirit as source, and staying connected to the bigger meaning of the transformation of your cycles. And, you know, I just want to add this real quick. And we're looking at one little aspect of a chart. Nothing in a chart is coincidental. I promise you, if you have these themes in your chart, these themes will play out in every level of your chart. It'll be in your incarnation cross in some way, shape, or form. It'll be in your moon in some way, shape, or form. It'll be in your nodes in some way, shape, or form. It'll play out layer after layer after layer in the chart. So there's nothing that's going to be coincidental about this. There won't be some weird random thing stuck here at the bottom of your chart. It'll play out in all the layers of your chart. And because it's part of the entirety of the chart, you know, looking at one aspect of the chart out of the context of the whole gives us some insight. I'm not saying you're not getting some insight here. And there's nothing that can replace getting a full reading. And every one of you is going to be different. Every one of you is going to have a different chart. I really strongly encourage you for your own sake so that you can find the vocabulary of the story of who you really are, so that you can get confirmation even that all of this inner sense of who you really are, maybe that's never been seen or recognized before, that you can have the experience of somebody really telling that story of who you are in a way that gives you a format of high level energy and information for you to continue to work towards and step into. It's really, really affirming and confirming, and I think really can be a powerful catalyst for you moving into a deeper and fuller expression of the truth of who you are. In 1975, we continue with the 42, and then we move to also adding in this theme this year, the gate 3. Now, the gate 3 is another initiating energy in a way. This is the energy of innovation. The energy of the gate 3 sort of says, I'm going to stand on this mountainside. I'm going to look at everything that's come before. I'm going to look at everything that's working. I'm going to look at all the goodness that's there, and I'm going to expand on it. I'm going to take what is. I'm going to work within the limitations of what's already here, and I'm going to create something new. It's innovation and it's synthesis. So it's the ability to really, in its highest expression, to look at all of the parts and to look at all the limitations and to work with this sort of limited set of either information or possibilities or potentials, and to weave them all together in a brand new way to create synthesis and innovation. So it's a mutative energy. It's an energy that brings change and transformation. It changes the way in which we do things, changes the way in which we see things. It is interesting when it's coupled with the 42, the energy of completion, which says, let's close this door and let's do something new. Let's open up to new possibilities. There's a lot of energy in 1975 that's about being on the leading edge. It's about moving forward. That's about progress. Maybe we'll call it progress. You know, going from taking what's worked before and then letting the stuff from the past go, leaving the stuff that hasn't been working, that isn't satisfying, that isn't serving, leaving it behind and continuing to evolve forward. 1976, okay, same energies in 1976, completion and innovation, right? 1977, we see again the continuation with the energy of the gate 3 in Chiron, and we have Chiron moving now as it goes forward into the gate 27. The gate 27 is a really, really powerful gate. It's part of the defense circuit in the tribal circuitry. So it's an energy that can be deeply penetrating and highly compelling. Any energy that's in the defense circuit is what we call aura busting. It's so powerful that when you stand in the field of anybody who carries that energy, when you stand in that field, your aura will be impacted by that person, and you will be compelled to kind of follow what that person is creating or what that person is doing. So the gate 27 is the gate of responsibility. It is oftentimes in its low expression the sense or feeling like you have to be responsible for everyone and everything. So it has a certain degree of codependency with it, right? So people who have the 27 can be deeply nurturing. It's a very maternal kind of energy. It has a very maternal quality to it. Certainly there can be a theme of being self-sacrificing or codependent. It can also be an energy that if you're not careful, and I certainly see this when it's in a Chiron position, an energy that can be about guilt and obligation and feeling guilty or being easily manipulated by guilt. And that guilt experience or that guilt energy, I'm feeling guilty about not letting the dog out of the office. So, that energy of guilt can sometimes keep you from asking for or doing what you need to do for yourself. And so oftentimes when you have the 27 in the Chiron position, there is a tendency for you to give up what you need and want, and a journey that's learning about how to put yourself first, how to take care of yourself first and get what you need and want so that you can ultimately serve people better, so that you can be more altruistic in what you give and share with the world, and you're giving and sharing from a place where you are not depleted, you are not exhausted, you are not codependent, but you are instead empowering and lifting other people up to do what they came here to do, and and doing it from a place where your energy is strong and vibrant and you're capable of hang on a second. The biggest takeaway here is if you have Chiron in the gate 27, you have to learn to ask for what you want and stand firm on that and not compromise and not let your guilt or your desire to take care of other people keep you from doing what you need to do to stay sustainable with your energy. Of course, it gets more interesting in 1978 because now Chiron moves into the gate 24, the gate of rationalizing. So think about this for a minute. It's pretty easy if you have codependency and rationalizing as part of your Chiron theme. I think it's not really too much scientific data to think about what that could look like. So rationalizing can literally be rationalizing, meaning it can literally be the energy of coming up with very innovative, creative expressions or explanations about why you're tolerating or accepting or settling for less than what you really deserve. You're anywhere in their chart, and certainly in Chiron, that they are oftentimes rationalizing accepting less than what they deserve. So certainly I would say if this is in your Chiron position, especially if you also have 27 in your Chiron position, for you to be mindful that you are not settling for less than what you're worthy of, or you're not rationalizing taking care of other people at cost to yourself and depleting yourself because you think that's what you have to do. Again, you have to be able to take care of yourself first in order ultimately to be able to take care of others. The high expression of the rationalizing energy, this K24, is finding the blessings in pain. Finding the blessings, the lessons that you create or you receive from situations that are less than ideal, and then moving out of those less than ideal circumstances, moving yourself to a different place, getting yourself out of those situations, and understanding that, hey, that sucked, but I learned that I'm capable of way more than I thought I was, or whatever it is that maybe you learned that from. And you take the blessings from your past choices, you take the lessons from your past choices, and you move forward. Don't get stuck in the rationalizing. 1979 has the same theme. And moving now into our last year, 1980. So in 1980, we'll still see the energy of the gate 24 rationalizing, and we see a movement now as Chiron goes forward into the gate 2. Now, the gate 2 is the most receptive of the gates or the hexagrams. It is a yin-yin hexagram in the I Ching. So it's a very receptive energy, and it's actually called the receptive in human design or in the traditional I Ching. This is an energy that is on the G center. This is the center for love and direction. And what it says is that we are actually designed to receive all the support that we need to fulfill our life purpose and our life direction. This is not an energy that is tied to work. This is not an energy that is a motor. This is an energy that is on the G, so it's an energy that is about being. And it says you are designed to be supported because you exist, because you be. And it's you being you that is worthy of the support, because you being you, you as yourself, you hold a vital place in the cosmos. In fact, your place in the cosmos is so vital that if you weren't in that place, the cosmos itself would be different. It wouldn't be the same cosmos. There's value in who you are, and you are worthy of being supported. The challenge with the gate 2 is learning to allow yourself to receive. I don't know if it's different in the Eastern world, but I will say I think in the Western world, we're kind of bad at it. We don't like to be gifted. We don't like to be supported. There's not a lot of, at least in America, cultural richness around receiving. If you're just receiving, then we think you're a lazy or you're a laggard or whatever. And so we tend to backpedal, right, from receiving. Oh, no, you give somebody a compliment and they're like, oh, all right, they don't want to receive the compliment. Or I have memories, this is just my weird family though, but I have memories of like my grandmother giving my mother money every time we went to visit. And my grandmother would give my mother money and she'd give me and my brother money, right? And my mother would never let me accept money from my grandmother. She would take it and try to give it back to my grandmother. This is a whole bizarre thing that they would do. Like my grandmother would give my mother money. She'd push it back. She'd give us money. We'd push it back. And in the end, my grandmother always ended up sneaking it into a pocket or something or a shoe. And you get home and you unpack your suitcase and you'd find the money that my grandmother snuck in there somewhere, right? And I always wondered, why can't we just give it to each other? It's so much easier, right? And it's that whole receiving thing. It's kind of like messy. So what happens oftentimes is when we don't settle into the energy of allowing ourselves to be supported and to receive and owning the value of who we are and the worthiness that we have just by virtue of our being is to receive support, we can rationalize 24, Chiron in the 24, we rationalize why we won't or can't or it's not okay, or we push away and we rationalize. I don't have enough education. I haven't done enough work. Give it to someone else who needs it more than me, whatever. We can tend to rationalize not allowing ourselves to be in a position of being supported or receiving support. Or you might rationalize, other aspects around receiving. Maybe you rationalize taking more than your fair share. I don't usually see that with the gate too, but certainly you could potentially see that. But there's certainly oftentimes a rationalizing that puts us in a position where we strap into a mindset that doesn't allow us to receive to the degree to which we could potentially be receiving, and doesn't allow ourselves to be supported to the degree to which we can be supported. So the lesson here is learning to allow yourself to be supported, to trust in the abundance of the universe, and to know that, again, because you play such a unique role in the cosmos, the universe wants to support you in that role, because not only does it serve you, it actually serves the greater plan. And that when you are being fulfilled and supported, it creates space for other people to experience the same. And again, it creates a space for you to also be in that supportive capacity with others. So that's part of what you're here ultimately with this Chiron position to teach and to share with the world. To all of you, thank you all for joining us this week for the Quantum Alignment Show. And I hope you all have a great week, and hope that wherever you are, the weather is beautiful, the sun is shining, and that you get some rest and restoration and dance with the possibilities that life has available to you right now in front of you. Have a great week and a great weekend. Bye-bye.